Conclusion. Verse 54. Whoever is planted in the Tao will not be uprooted. Whoever embraces the Tao will not slip away. Generations honor generations endlessly. Cultivated in the self, virtue is realized. Cultivated in the family, virtue overflows. Cultivated in the community, virtue increases. Cultivated in the state, virtue abounds. The Tao is everywhere. It has become everything. To truly see it as it is. In a person, see it as a person. In a family, see it as a family. In a country, see it as a country. In the world, see it as the world. How do I know this to be true? By looking inside myself. In the introduction, I mentioned my friend Tim and the eureka moment I experienced when he shared with me the beautiful phrase that would later become the title of this book. I've always looked up to Tim and his outlook on life. He possesses something few do, a perspective of gratitude. You wouldn't know this, but I feel compelled to share. Since birth, Tim has overcome countless challenges navigating his life with a disability that requires him to use a wheelchair. So many activities that you and I take for granted are not so easy for Tim, yet I have never heard him complain. For this reason, I have always heeded his advice with the highest regard. Unfortunately, the months following my conversation with Tim would prove to be much more difficult than I anticipated. After committing my heart and soul to this work, I thought that my life would swing back to normal, and the dark clouds would dissipate. Instead, the opposite occurred, and the lessons I just shared with you were put to the test during some of the most trying moments of my life. In May, my wife and I found out that we would be expecting our second child. Filled with excitement, we shared the news with our parents, only to have our hearts broken by a miscarriage a month later. Uncertainty in the corporate world rippled into our small businesses. For the first time in our entrepreneurial journeys, we felt the choking grip of inadequate cash flow. Contracts that were verbally agreed upon vanished into thin air before materializing. What was forecasted as a year of tremendous growth quickly turned into a grueling season of business survival. The blow that hurt me the most was seeing a significant contract my wife worked on for nearly a year be terminated at the 11th hour, just a couple of weeks after we lost the baby. It felt like no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't catch a break. In need of a sabbatical, we decided it was best to halt my wife's business operations temporarily so she could focus on her well-being. I promised to pick up the financial burden and continue to provide for our family and coworkers. In the summer and early fall months, little changed. Leadership retreats that we spent months planning took losses, or at best broke even. Free online events that we hosted were welcomed with historically low attendance. I began feeling trapped and depleted. My patience and faith were being tested in ways I had never experienced before. I questioned my abilities, my career choices, and the business relationships I thought I could depend on. You could see the pain and worry in my eyes as a result of sleepless nights and constant concern about how I was going to cover payroll in the weeks to come. Adding to the misery was coming to terms with the debilitating decline in the health of our 17-year-old dog. Since adopting Herky on our first wedding anniversary over a decade ago, our little Maltipoo had been a constant source of companionship in our lives. Accepting the inevitable brought tears to my eyes as we said goodbye. In this valley, a deep appreciation for the smaller things in life was born. A hunger to write again, an influential song, and a magical phrase from my friend Tim were the ingredients I needed to reconnect with my inner vision. Instead of masking the hardships, I decided to honor them by turning 8 verses of the Tao Te Ching into mindful leadership lessons. As hard as it was, I opened my grip and decided to trust the direction the winds of my life were taking me in. I shifted my mindset and began viewing the slower season of business as a beautiful time to write, trusting that this was what my soul was meant to be doing. Some days, shaking the pit out of my stomach was more difficult than others. When I felt overwhelmed, I tamed my worries by going outside to observe the beautiful manifestations of the natural world. Looking up, I would watch the leaves gently sway in the breeze. I would see butterflies and hummingbirds dancing among the wildflowers. I would pause to soak in the joyful laughter of my daughter running barefoot through the grass to pick wild blackberries. Deciphering heavenly images from the free-flowing clouds, I reminded myself that I would never relive this exact moment ever again. Instead of flooding my nervous system with worry or numbing my grief with addiction, I filled my lungs with the substance of the Great Mother. I realized the rejection in business was redirection to live in greater flow. The loss of an unborn child helped me birth a new gift into the world. The suffering taught me things about leadership that a textbook never could. Eventually, the winds of good fortune came blowing our way again. A significant contract that had been in the works for nearly a year was signed in October, days before we were going to have to downsize our businesses. A few weeks later, my wife and I found out that she was carrying a new baby. Unbeknown to me, an attendee from one of our leadership retreats made an introduction to a life-changing client that has since turned into a scalable opportunity. Most importantly, the mental and physical health of my family began to recover with a new compass to navigate future plights. I now understand that the wind has a divine way of blowing things to and away from us in our lives. Its impact can be seen, yet the wind itself remains unseen, always changing, yet serving as a constant in our lives. On the days it appears to go missing, the wind can still be found within our lungs. Honor life's greatest mysteries. Keep your head in the wind.